Hey, better late than never. 3D Politics here live. And that's what makes it exciting. I'm Tom McKay, your exciting host. We've got 2 out of the 3 Davids today. 2D out of the 3D. I've got David Van and David Oldham. Hats off to the Brosos who are now raising their family just one at a time. It's a great job. And hats off to my wife, who at the end of the week, she and I will begin 34 years of marital bliss.
Hey, congratulations.
Whoa, there you go.
Congratulations, and really big congratulations to your wife.
She and I just talked about that as she was having the locks changed on the door. We got a lot to get to tonight. We got, I thought at first this Olympic fencer was sick from a Tide Pod challenge, but no. He's doing his own routine. You know, he can't do his own original routine. He's got to do a kneeling thing. I think somebody else already did that one, but we're going to talk about Epstein. And, you know, my routine is he's smoking a spleef with Osama bin Laden and Elvis out there in Jamaica. If you think Epstein is dead, we're also going to talk about the Springfield gunman, and that gets us into some pretty serious discussion about how far can you go to exercise your rights before you're just being ridiculous. Dean Davis, legislature scorecards, the new Tulsa scooter laws. That's interesting. And that's how we're going to start it today. Let's get started with this fencing guy. Oh. So, Race Bowden, and I don't know if that's the way to say it, but that's the way I'm saying it. He's 26. He's an American fencer. This is all coming from Yahoo News.
So what kind of fencing? I mean, chain link? Or...
It's I hadn't gotten the barbed wire yet, but when it comes in, I'll ticker tape it to you. Now, here's the one thing I didn't have time to look up. The guy has won a gold and a bronze, and he took a knee during one of the ceremonies. Now, my question is, did he take a knee while he was receiving the bronze, or did he take a knee while he was receiving the gold?
It was the gold. And it was actually the team.
It was a team because they were all standing on the podium.
There were 3 of them on the gold, up on the high one. 2 guys standing. He's pulling his Kaepernick wannabe. I don't know if Nike offered him anything yet for it.
So here's the deal. Here he is.
I will tell you that fencing shoes are not the rage. Okay. Now, mind you, I fenced in college myself. So
did you?
Yes, it's a fabulous sport.
Yeah, I didn't have a life either.
Well, it really is.
How do you kiss through those?
It gets all your muscles working one direction.
You better believe it does.
But the other side goes a wasting.
So here's the bigger question. Look, the guy, he didn't just become overwhelmed with pride suddenly, or a lack thereof, and decide to kneel, seconds, before he got the medal. Mm-hmm. There's almost no way he didn't pre-plan this thing. So let your yays be your yays and your nays be your nays. If they ask you to represent the United States on the Olympic fencing team, say no and go to hell. I would never represent you because you're horrible and you're mean to immigrants and stuff. Otherwise, follow through on your commitment, represent the country, protest on your own time, accept the medal, and go through the process. He signed a contract that said he wasn't going to pull any of the protest shenanigans, and get your own routine. Kaepernick already did the kneeling thing.
So he signed a contract?
Yes, he signed a contract.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
He signed a contract that said he would not do those kinds of things.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So just refrain. Oh yeah. Every athlete competing in the 2019 Pan American Games commits to a term of eligibility, including to refrain from demonstrations that are political in nature. In this case, he did not Race Bowden didn't adhere to the commitment he made to the organizing committee and the USOPC, and that's the end of my comment. I mean, there you go.
Wow.
Can you fence with integrity, or are you just going to act like you're a Kaepernick Jr.? All right.
It kind of got to you, didn't it?
It really got to me, because fencing, as you know, is a thing for you and me. Touche. Who is Dean Davis, and why do we care?
Dean Davis is a young legislator. Well, I say young, he's a rookie, a freshman, if you will. Just got elected, had been a school teacher, and had by some people's accounts, pretty good on issues of freedom this session. On other accounts, he scored really low in the Trump Index, which came out this weekend from Sooner Tea Party. But he had this issue, this DUI 8 years ago, and he insisted during the campaign, no, that's behind him. That's 8 years ago. Except it came back a couple weeks ago.
He did it again?
He did it, well...
No, it didn't come back. He repeated.
Okay. But at any rate, and the crazy thing for me, because this is real to me, I'm over babysitting grandkids at night down there in Indian Springs, South Broken Arrow, and I'm driving back on that very road that, thank God, I waited an extra half hour with my son and daughter-in-law, before I came back, or I would have run right into him as he's swerving around the road.
Yeah, you don't know.
On South Aspen Avenue. Who knows what could have been. But you know what? My wife's in the car with me.
Yeah.
And doggone it, this is real. This is serious. And I talked to 46 News today's, Matt Vermillion, formerly of 46 News, and he's hearing an excuse or argument or justification that it was a medical condition led to this. Now, mind you, he refused a breathalyzer at the scene.
Oh, that's totally his right, though.
Yes. Mind you, he did not do any of that stuff. He was going 54 in a 40. And now, is that unconstitutional, that speed limits?
No.
Oh, there we go. It's okay.
I thought they broke them up even and odd. You couldn't do like 53 and a 54.
But he argues,
53.
in his defense, he does pay taxes on both sides of the road.
Oh,
so
everybody gets one.
Well, the question I have is, did the police at some point get a warrant or force the issue and take blood readings or urinalysis or something like that? And if they didn't, then that's on them.
Yeah.
He may
Here's the problem.
People didn't do the job.
This happened 10 days ago, I think.
About that?
There has been nothing since, not last weekend, but the weekend before. Here's what's happening. Kunzweiler has not filed charges. Our DA, Steve Kunzweiler. And my sense is that some dealing's going on here because they haven't even put out the charges.
How fast do charges like that usually come about?
Oh, you have them within a week, almost all the time. I mean, is it a traffic thing? Come on. So...
I don't know.
But here's the deal. You're lawyering up and stuff, and you got influence, and you're both Republican elected officials, both state, office holders. And so my thing is, I bet you they're waiting until they've negotiated this down from a felony, because when it's second DUI, that can be charged as a felony.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if he was convicted of a felony, he would automatically be removed from elected office in Oklahoma.
How long has he got to serve?
Well, he's got another 11 years before he terms out.
Yeah, I mean, he's up for re-election next year because those are 2-year terms.
So if he was removed due to a felony, then he wouldn't be up for re-election.
You have to be felony-free for a number of years before you can even file. I thought it was 10 years that you have to be without a felony record for the last 10 years. But this happened back when David Walters was governor. Scandal-ridden governorship back in the early 90s.
Right.
And it was clearly felony stuff, but he got together with the DA. The courtroom was closed. All of a sudden, here comes the Suburbans and everything comes in. A locked courtroom, which is, I don't believe is constitutional.
No, it's a public trial. He can have a private one. The question is...
Yeah. So they brought up the charges and he pled it down to a misdemeanor he pled guilty of so that he wouldn't be thrown out of office as a criminal.
So Dean Davis had a DUI 8 years ago.
Yes.
Which is just inside the length of time.
Well, no, that was a misdemeanor because first offense is not a felony in DUI.
But the first offense always exists then.
Yes.
Yes. There it is. And so then there he is. He hits it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And So you're saying that it's potential he's getting favored treatment then?
Well, I'm concerned about that because if it is seen as favored treatment, then all Republicans will suffer at the ballot box because of the impression of this strike.
The perception of impropriety, or the appearance of impropriety. And this is not new. I mean, just in the last couple years, we see Preston Dorflinger, financial guru wizard for Mary Fallon.
Can the guy just open a door? Does he have to? I mean, anyway.
I mean, he was having the same sweetheart deals made for him. As he was going around the state driving drunk.
There's been a bunch. Now,
is this because of money or because Dean Davis's potential medical situation?
I don't know. This is the first we're hearing that there's any medical thing. I don't know of a medical condition that makes you drive 54 and a 40.
Well,
I'm almost as mad about Dean Davis as I am that fencing guy.
Okay, but here's the other thing. This isn't the only one. We had a guy a couple summers ago was too drunk to drive, so he gets an Uber and he decides that it's okay to feel up the female Uber driver. Now, he eventually pled down, got probation.
Now remember, this was a legislator. This is not just an ordinary guy off the street.
Right. Okay.
Well, I like how you tried to sneak that one through, Dave.
No, I think you just missed that part.
Okay. I got too many facts going on here. Trying to be brief here. And you know what? He pleads down, gets this probation thing, and not 2 weeks after he makes a deal, he's out driving drunk again. So his probation just got yanked.
Well, he had to drive drunk because otherwise he might have an Uber incident.
I missed Ambrosio sarcasm.
There it is.
I'm sorry, Dave. You're too honest. But anyway, so here's the thing. He's now spending 90 days behind bars because he could not keep sober for 2 weeks.
It's so easy to Uber, and then you can keep your hands off of it. But I mean, you could just Uber.
Yeah. So we've got a problem here. We've got really problem. All
right. So my suggestion is to fix it the normal way, and that is to elect other people. I don't think it's fair to ask society to suddenly behave differently.
Right.
I'll never forget when they pulled Michael Jackson over in some sort of traffic accident, and the announcer said, so what, does Michael Jackson think he's going to be treated differently just because he's Michael Jackson? And I'm like, hell yeah, he does. If you're Michael Jackson, you're going to be treated differently. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
And so we can beg to create a new society, or we can understand that's the way it works. We have to hire better people to drive more sober, to represent us in a more
the one thing that I can
way.
say about that is, fortunately, he was Michael Jackson was brought to trial in the neighboring town to me where I grew up, and fortunately they do look at things differently, and they didn't put him on the pedestal.
Really?
Not to the same degree. No, because he suffered for a lot of his sins.
Yeah, my thing is, for the sake of his own party, the Republican Party, it's actually better for the sake of the party not to give any preferential treatment to try to keep one man in office, because you could lose 5 other elections because of how you handled this.
True.
Yeah, regardless of why, everyone should be treated properly and fairly.
Yeah,
right. And it needs to be that we all are equal under the law.
Yeah.
Anybody, David, Hillary, anything? D'Ambroso, I know you're listening. We'll just throw a Hillary reference in there. But that leads us into, I think, our next discussion.
Oh, I was going here.
Okay. Well, we can do that.
But let's talk about the legislative scorecard.
Well, yeah, we just had a couple more come out this week.
Yeah.
As you know, Sooner Politics, my publication, came out with the Freedom Index back in mid-June. Now we've had the granddaddy of them all, the Oklahoma Constitution's 41st Annual Conservative Index. And it was interesting. I posted it all up there on 3D Politics Facebook page, so you can take a look at all of them. I keep a journal of all the different scoring index. So we've got 4 of them. Freedom Index focuses on individual liberties, trying to advance and defend our individual liberties. Conservative Index, which is kind of traditional conservatism, if you will.
Okay.
Some might look at Reagan conservatism, Jerry Falwell conservatism, Jack Kemp conservatism, all these different things. The Reid Index is another one that is just creating a pro-business atmosphere for the sake of the prosperity, and some would say especially the prosperity of the big businesses, don't you know? But anyway, hey, you got to have commerce, right? So, and then we got...
And we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
We have to bribe them.
Well, somebody got to prime the pump, right? So, but then we got another one. Sooner Tea Party came out with, they rebranded what they used to do as the Rhino Index. Al Gerhardt started what's called the Trump Index. And it's interesting on this because he's trying to seize how, as much as we give lip service to backing our president, how many of them vote in line with Trump's proposals, what Trump's trying to do on the national level. Are we following through here? Because, for instance, last year, at the same time Mary Fallon was, just rah-rah, cheer, Trump's tax breaks, she was raising taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's kind of what Al's trying to get at in there. I have to say something here. Big part of what Al did on this one is the criminal justice reform issues and stuff. And, his contention is when it comes to, serving time for what you've done wrong, Trump is not trying to cut back those sentences or anything.
Right.
What he's focusing on is when you paid your dues, getting you back into society, living a productive life again.
Right.
Many times we stack the deck against you and then wonder why you reverted back to crime.
Right.
The thing
but he has pardoned or commuted sentences of people who have been wrongly convicted of non-crimes. What we talk about all the time. Crimes that aren't crimes, that have no harm to anybody else, that are actually just an exercise of right, but hey, they're illegal.
So Al and I talked a little bit this afternoon, and I pointed out, I said, it's like we said on the show a couple weeks ago about the embezzlement charges. If you go to state court on a big-time embezzlement of $1 million or more, you're likely to spend at least 10 years in jail. But if you go to federal court, you're probably not going to spend 4 years in prison.
Right.
So we have to get these things in line. Al's response to me is that, yeah, but how much of that time in that sentence do they actually serve? His contention is in the state, they don't serve nearly as much of it unless it's a violent crime. Violent crimes have the 85% rule. But I think what we need to do...
And guns.
Yeah, and what Al and I have, came to agreement on is we really need to get our state laws somewhat reflective and consistent in how the rest of the nation does, or at least our federal stuff, so you don't have these lawyers trying to bypass state and surrendering to a federal court just so they can get a lenient sentence. Because that's essentially what's happening on some of these.
Well, remember the other
crimes.
day we talked about how the Supreme Court has now said we have two separate sovereigns, so you can get them both places, irrespective of the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, and we got to watch how that develops. This is going to be an interesting deal. So anyway, that's my report on. It's some interesting reading. Go to 3D Politics on Facebook. Take a look at that link I've got up there to all four of those scorecards that have come out since the legislature's gone. It's good reading.
If you're just tuning in, I'm Tom McCann, your host for 3D Politics. I got 2 out of the 3 Davids. David Vann, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso is out tonight. So the big winners and losers on the scorecards. Who's your top 3 winners and top 3 losers? Or can you throw it out there like that?
I would say
is that doable?
Nathan Dahm is the golden boy on just about everybody.
He just almost always is. It seems like.
He
even on the big government. The big donor class, the Reid Index.
The Reid Index of economic development.
Even they like Nathan.
Yeah.
Go figure, because they're always saying they're the ones that are always fighting him. Yet because liberty actually works and makes people money.
Yeah.
Gives you the ability to do business.
Yeah, a freshman, Jim Olson, from out there in Stillwell area, he did well. We've got Joe Newhouse did really well in some of these, and Tom Gann, very good. We've got a number of great lawmakers. I will say, generally, this is one of the better sessions we've had.
Good.
I mean, we've usually, ready to tar and feather.
I
They
think
were
we're-
happy because they had all that. They were flush with cash.
We have extra money.
They were desperate to try to figure out how to spend it all.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
when you got
Yeah.
$500 million extra dollars, it's like,
but
ooh.
This would turn within a month of now.
Oh,
because there is talk of calling a special session to expand Medicaid in Oklahoma.
Oh.
And this is a big deal. And by the way, Saturday I talked to Congressman Kevin Hearn and Representative Jim Jordan as well, about is there a game plan for fixing this federal. Remember we talked about Oklahoma gets puny reimbursement compared to these other states who just give health care to people who could afford to pay for it.
Right.
And Congressman Hearn said, what's her name? Conway? Trump's advisor.
Oh, yeah. Conway.
Yeah, and anyway, she did talk. She told the Republican caucus, "Here's our game plan," and Hearn just said, "But I got to keep my mouth shut."
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, "Oh man, you won't tell us," but at least we know there's something. However, it's not going to be rolled out until we see what happens at next year's elections. Because again, if you got Pelosi in charge of the House, good luck trying to get
That makes sense, even if you don't like it. They got to wait to see. It's going to roll either way until then.
Well, I think this comes down to what we as the viewers and individuals have got to do. We've got to stop and look at this constitutionally. Where's our bell? We've got to start getting our heads wrapped around this. Medicare, Medicaid, which is the state, Sooner Care, and all of that. All of these entitlement programs are unconstitutional. There is nothing that is legal about them whatsoever.
And they're the fastest growing part of our budgets, and they're just like a cancer.
And they're a cancer to whom? To the younger generations who are coming up the most.
Yeah.
Because they're paying for things that could go away and that they never actually.
Well,
they're not able to, they're not going to be taking out of the system that much unless they're really sickly.
Right.
If they're healthy, they're not going to be doing that because they don't have age-related disease and stuff like
It's
that.
a bad system to
the chances of having a balanced budget are far, far more difficult to get to now because of how much you got to service the debt before you can even spend any money.
And what's that debt on? All these entitlement programs.
From the past 4 decades. Yes.
No. We are talking 10 decades plus. Because these things go all the way back to FDR 7 decades ago.
Well, no. I'm talking about the deficits. Yes, we had the spending programs, but we have.
But the serious deficits.
The serious deficits really started the late 70s into the 80s.
That's correct.
When Congress just could not
Well,
discipline
we've always
themselves.
had a deficit to one degree or another.
It was very small,
but it's very small. It's nothing.
I remember one year when I first became conscious of what's going on, and Carter was president. It was a $29 billion deficit. $29 billion.
Back when $1 billion was like $1 trillion today.
Yeah.
back when you had to say with a B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it mattered.
So anyway, that's what's going on the legislature right now. Looks good. By January, we could all be ready to march with pitchforks.
To transition to a more national story, but this idea that we have a GDP in America, we make so much money per year, but we owe more money to China than we make.
Yeah.
So this kind of flies in the face of Bernie Sanders saying we're the richest country. No, we're in debt. We don't have the money.
Yeah.
This idea that we're the richest country and we can afford
All right. So
we're in debt. We cannot
Thank you for pointing out the obvious.
Okay.
That's my job, Dave.
Oklahoma's elder statesman, James Mountain Inhofe, who's 85 now, I guess, and going for another 6-year term, he voted for this spending increase, whereas James Langford voted against it, as did Congressman Hearn and some others in that. You know, I guess the difference in perspective is, are you going to have to stick around to pay the bill? Because I don't think Jim Inhofe's going to be around another 10, 20 years.
More pizza.
Well, and let's stop and think about that, because it comes down to each and every one of us. You know, we have a good society if we all live by the golden rule. If we treat others like we want to be treated.
Right.
So if we don't want to have the debt put on us, then why do we put it on somebody else? And that comes down to individuals. All politics is local.
That's right.
Okay? Jim Inhofe may have some political feelings or, inclinations that would make him vote for it. And so forth. But the thing is, but here's the thing. He's just going to be a reflection of society. My question is, what are you doing in your life to cut yourself off from the governmental teat?
3 words. Military-industrial complex.
Oh my God.
James Inhofe is finally now the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Do you know what toys you get to spend money on when you're out of that?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So that leads us, speaking of military-industrial complex, how it, for a man who has the ability to skirt the law, have sex on a regular basis with 14-year-old little girls, he's got 12 point whatever billion dollars, and that's with a B, and then he winds up in a jail cell, and he's unable to make it out of there alive. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he's alive. That's my point.
Well, the Epstein case is really interesting, and here's the big thing: is you are not alone in your questioning the official narrative. And
No.
I think the big takeaway isn't whether or not he's alive, whether or not how he died, if he did, and all of these things, but rather the fact that people who are knee-jerk acceptors of the official narrative now, finally, have to question it. And it doesn't matter which way they might lean. I can't say what happened because, you can't trust.
Okay,
well,
let's talk
talk
about the report that came out the day before. You had former New Mexico Governor Richardson is being figured as involved in this.
That he went to the island.
Prince Andrew. And we know from, various media reports, Clinton, 20-some times?
27
he
times.
flew on Epstein's plane, where the hot honeys are. And, it's because the food was so good, right?
Just saying. We just earlier talked about the reality of mankind and the nature of man. People with $12 billion in connections don't just wind up dead. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Well, and and conveniently, like in so many things, the video is missing. He got taken off of suicide watch when he was supposedly completely suicidal, and somehow then he also managed to get the implements to do himself in. So we have all sorts of things that have yet to be answered, and I've seen pictures going around saying it wasn't him, and everything else. The one with the nose, his picture turned on its side.
One of these.
And I'm telling you, it just reminds me of a scene from The Godfather and Vito Corleone in the hospital, and all of a sudden it's a ghost town, nobody's around, and then the hitmen show up. It just this is New York City, life in the boroughs, right?
The reality is, it's a world ruled by force. This is one of the problems with the non-aggression type pacts, where we pretend if we ignore the potential for violence, that it'll just not get to us. Even if you could create a world with a magic wand where there was no violence, the first guy that started knocking stuff over, you can't just not, aggress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in the Mueller testimony, it was 2 weeks ago in the House, we found out that Mueller didn't hardly know what was going on in that.
Oh, yeah.
It was the 25 Democrat FBI agents that were all in there that did everything, and Mueller hardly knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And they were all very tight and close with the Clintons, right?
Right.
And you notice how they always, when they had charges against somebody close to Trump in his campaign, they deferred those charges to the New York City FBI.
State, okay.
Yeah, no, it's federal, yes. So the FBI in New York City, everything gets done over there because these guys want it done in New York City. They're in Washington, D.C., but let's do it all in New York. And so then they go to the...
Well, that's
prison
also where they
hotel.
had the evidence because that's where his office was.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But I would just as soon see Epstein, and again, when it's federal court, they can move that anywhere in the country they want.
Oh, sure.
And so, on any of them. And I would much rather see an Epstein in Omaha at a federal facility.
Well,
because I'm sorry. Am I cynical? Absolutely, I'm
Well,
cynical.
the real thing is, again, what was he up for? What were the charges against him? And again, we come back to they were going to be the trafficking and the being with the underage girls, none of which are federal crimes. Those need to be prosecuted by the local state.
Oh, David, you are getting enemies now.
Well, the thing is that's the entirety. Show me if somebody's gonna start ragging on me about that. Show me in the Constitution where the federal government has the right to prosecute.
But it's wrong,
for
David.
crimes.
It's okay because that's such a heinous crime. It's okay. It doesn't matter who prosecutes because it's wrong.
And we have two sovereigns at least.
100 people surveyed, show me overreach. What else we
it
got?
was like, when I get in trouble in school in second grade, and my goodness, the teacher's, really tough on me, and I'm just bawling, and she's, why wasn't that rough on you? I said, I gotta go home. My parents
I've got a death march coming, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You talk about double jeopardy. Oh man, every kid knows what double jeopardy is. Yeah.
So let's talk about the old boy that wants to walk into a Springfield. Was it a Walmart?
It was a Walmart grocery store.
Right after the heinous crime of somebody walking into a Walmart and shooting up the place, here goes this guy in Springfield and walks into a Walmart, locked and loaded, but not intending to shoot someone. What happened?
Not showing a sign. Now let's get this. Let's get this.
Do
out.
we know what?
Yeah.
The details.
Okay. Let's get this out of the way. The kid's an idiot. Okay, I said it. We don't all have to say it. Let's get that out of the. If this is him wanting to be a Tim Harper, or the guy
Who's
over
Tim
here,
Harper?
Tim Harper is one of the guys who does the Second Amendment audits. He's part of Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, has a show where he'll go walking down the street with the rifle on a sling
Just
over
to
his
see.
shoulder, and he'll
It's a
just
pistol.
Yeah, well, he also does a rifle.
Oh, does he?
Yes. And he's done it, and just like a guy out here in Broken Arrow did, D'Ambrosa's been following that for a few months here. And somebody just peacefully walking, and has this thing, not pointing at each other, not even, in your hands, not even with your fingers wrapped around,
Right.
But because it's bothering some snowflakes, there I said it. Therefore, it's against the law. You are scaring people. Now, you tell me, who's scaring whom? Because, if he was walking out in the woods wearing a red hat and an orange vest or whatever, he wouldn't be scaring anybody, right? Because we're used to that. Or if it was a law enforcement officer, it wouldn't scare him because we're used to that. We're not used to people bearing arms. Therefore, people feel it's okay to be
So
scared.
here's the thing. It was originally reported that he was dangerous, that he had put up almost like a manifesto that he had all these intents. He had gone there to cause confusion, to cause a panic.
I did not read any of that.
Well, that was what was initially shared in the news media about him. So what I'm hearing from you is you're saying that never happened.
No.
Okay, so what we get is, again, we have misreporting.
Yeah.
We have an overreaction. If what you're saying is
What you're
true,
saying is no, it didn't happen.
No,
Correct?
he walked in there, bulletproof vest on.
Yeah.
Okay? He's got lots of rounds of ammo. He's got a sidearm handgun.
Okay.
And he's got rifle over the shoulder. Okay?
which I think you put in the cart, right?
I don't believe.
No?
Well,
Did he
With
keep
the
it on?
kid.
because
Okay.
right when he came in, no, I don't believe he put it in
Okay,
the car.
okay, so he kept it on. Okay.
But the manager saw it and right away set the alarms. Everybody starts scurrying.
Right.
Okay, there's another fella in there who happens to be carrying, but that fella concealed. Okay, he pulls a gun on the guy. Now we don't know who he is. We find out later he happens to be not a peace officer, not a state certified cop. He happens to be an off-duty fireman.
Either way, he's got
Either
a
way,
firearm.
but we don't know that. But we know this guy is pointing a gun at another guy who has a gun over his shoulder. Now, at that point, you tell me who is actually committing a crime here. Okay, now this is important because in about 3 months, or a little over,
We're going to be faced with that right
we're
here.
going to have all kinds of people without any licenses walking down the street, and somebody might be scared by one and scream and yell, and another guy want to be a hero because there's a damsel in distress and pulling a gun on another guy. And it ain't going to be pretty.
Well, it can and should be, and this is why we bring it up.
Not when you point a gun at somebody without them actually doing something.
If there was nothing done, if the idiot, as you would phrase him, had done nothing,
Yeah.
okay, then to have the gun pulled on him is a criminal act on the fireman.
Yeah, but they're celebrating the...
Oh, I know. Oh, yes, they were. And so have been a number of... I mean, I read it on OK2A's Facebook group. Mm-hmm. They were celebrating... Some of them were celebrating him. And others were reining them in. So
Celebrating him, the guy,
the fireman
that pulled the
the
gun.
fireman.
who accosted him.
Let
who
me
confronted
go
him.
ahead and join their chorus. I could easily say that someone might fear for their life in that situation. If you're standing,
That's
regardless
not,
if
you can't let snowflakes rule our legal system.
A snowflake in today's society is not a snowflake when a guy walks in armed and able to carry out.
Well, wait a minute. A cop does that every single day.
Sure. We have
And we
already
do-
authorized the cop to do it for us.
We now authorized everybody to put a rifle over their shoulder.
Oh,
right.
No. Let's get this straight. God authorized
Okay.
us because these are according to our law. These are God-given rights. They are superior to any law to the contrary. So the thing is,
let me clear, Tom. It's an extension of your natural right of self-defense.
I'm not arguing.
That's
that.
what he said.
I'm
Okay.
suggesting that our laws in each community and locally have the ability to deal with things that are very nuance-oriented. We have
Sure.
laws against disturbing the peace. This would quite easily fall into an area of disturbing the peace, but that doesn't allow you to pull a gun there.
Based on what? On him not threatening anybody,
Well,
but
then
somebody
that's
feeling
the-
threatened.
Again,
You tell me.
it's just not about the legalistic aspect of it. The if you live in a community, I'm not hurting anybody if I play my rock and roll, right? Until I'm disturbing the peace, and then they
Correct.
come get me.
Correct, but you are actually doing something that is taking away their right to enjoy the same air and calm. And even there's limits on that to where a cop will step in and say that, yes, it is a serious enough, egregious, because it's 3 in the morning, not 3 in the afternoon. So yeah,
let's add to the no shirt, no shoes, no service, no
that's not
rifles.
law. That's not law.
Right, but I mean,
That is a store's right to put conditions
private
on
part-
This
private
guy
property.
was purposefully flaunting the law to gain his own personal attention.
Boy,
Flaunting-
I'm sorry.
what do you mean
when did
flaunting
he tell
the
you
law?
that?
I read that in his mind.
You sound like a snowflake because
I'm
this
just trying to
Well,
press
no, this
the
comes
point.
down to exactly what I wanted to get to, which was where we're going with the ERPOs. The
What's an
emergency, the emergency. What are those things? It's where they steal your guns.
Yes.
For while you have done nothing actually.
Yeah,
Against anybody else.
Emergency order of.
They're something emergency something protective orders.
Yeah.
And or emergency response.
It's
protective
where they say,
orders,
we're
something
taking
like
your
that.
guns now, your hearing will be in 2 weeks. Between now and then, you can't defend yourself. We're going to make you vulnerable.
Well, and 2 weeks is just a preliminary hearing. You're not going to get your actual due process till on down the road. You're not going to get your jury trial and everything else till on down the road. And again, you have still done no crime.
Right.
So what about acts of decency and indecency?
Right. Yeah, now, Tom, if he had made any deliberate move that you could clearly and objectively say, okay, here he's trying to, but when he's walking just expressionless, calm, not running, not
Shopping.
charging.
Was he shopping?
There's that. He mentioned something about groceries.
Did he scope
But-
anything in when he was
Yeah.
shopping?
No.
I'll have one
Yeah.
of those.
Now, Tom, if you literally take that sling
I
off
get
your
it.
shoulder,
I
that in
get it.
itself, you can say, okay,
So,
that
if
is-
you are a fireman and you are concealed carry and you're walking through the Walmart and some dipwad walks in locked and loaded, you just keep following him until he pulls it out.
Well, that actually would be a proper a proper
A
response.
more
accurate-
And a more
Unless-
proper.
I answered the question.
unless it can be deemed that you're stalking him.
Remember,
Correct, I'm stalking him.
We have already discussed this exact situation when we had the Blanchard call in.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the exact same situation where a guy is just sitting across the street
Sitting
from
in
a
his
house
pickup truck.
in his pickup truck where outside of a house that he is going to do an inspection on.
Yeah.
And he's doing nothing. The neighbors call the cops, and the cops come up and accost him. There is nothing different except for facts which are now in dispute because they've gone both ways. Again, with Epstein and everything else, we've got all sorts of sides being said, and who is telling the truth? The problem is we've got too many liars out there, too many people willing to spread false news. The point is that, well, let's get it back to just a basic. If the idiot did nothing, the little fool did nothing criminal, then the accosting of him, the calling the cops by the manager, and the pulling of the gun by the fireman are illegal acts.
Yeah, and
Okay?
let me say this. The biggest proof of my conjecture here is how he reacted when a gun was pulled on him. Keep in mind, he outgunned the guy, right? He has way more weapons. He's got a bulletproof vest on.
I have a feeling he was wearing that for a reason because he expected what happened to him, and that's a way to survive.
According
such a
to his
situation.
sister, he said, I wonder if my constitutional rights actually will be honored like the law says they should be.
Oh.
And so this is according to his sister. And she told him, I wouldn't do it, that's too dangerous, and so that's...
If that's actually what happened, this guy is a brave patriot.
I'm just telling you, it
He's a
seemed no
fool
different
at the
than what
same
Tim
time,
Harper of News Now OKC does. He does First Amendment audits, where he'll take his cameras and he'll walk into, police departments, libraries, government offices, and then you can't videotape in here. Oh yeah, I can.
Right.
And he's gotten arrested for doing it.
Bravery lives right next door to stupidity.
Oh, it's a fine line separates the two.
What act of bravery is not considered stupid by a weaker man?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything else before we close out? By the way, you're listening to 3D Politics. I'm Tom McKay, your host. David Van, David Oldham. We're missing David D'Ambrosa tonight, but be sure and find out all the good information at Sooner Politics and also on constitutional.org there.
Constitutional grounds.
Constitutional grounds, thank you.
Had a Biden moment there, didn't you?
Are you both? Are you both?
It's not about the.
Yes.
It's about the truth, not about facts.
So they're both .orgs. Soonerpolitics.org
and constitutionalgrounds.com.
.com.
I think you can get there also by
Yeah,
.org.
we'll get it. We'll get it eventually.
Yeah, he's on Main Street downtown on that little side avenue where the cheap real estate is. The .orgs, you know. Yeah.
I use a small button.
Where all the
because it makes money look
nonprofits
like-
live, you know.
We got one more.
We're non-profit. We haven't made nothing.
Good night's sleep for a good night's profit.
Yeah.
We're one more to get out
Yeah,
of.
let's talk about that because that's an interesting.
We got a little local story on the new Tulsa scooter laws.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an update. Yeah, because
You do?
I love the scooters. I can hardly get them when they go by.
You can't take your grandkids on them anymore.
Now let's bring up to date because last spring, remember, a mom and her kids were playing on Riverside Drive at night, and mom bails out to save herself. Meanwhile, her kid becomes one with the asphalt and is dead, and then she is let out of jail to go to her son's funeral, and meanwhile she decides, I'm heading to Mexico, which is last we've heard of her. Okay,
she's still
loving
in
mother,
Mexico?
loving mother, right? And so out of that came this: we got to make this illegal for kids to be on scooters, mind you. Oklahoma law, motorcycle. You know how soon you can get a motorcycle, not permit, license?
16?
14. But you can't ride a scooter till you're 16 if GT Bynum gets his way.
So no, here's the question. So motorcycle, you're saying a motorcycle license?
License.
A license. No, okay. You guys all know that I am deaf on licensure, but this is part of the reason why it's all arbitrary. They make everything up as they go, and it serves absolutely no purpose in fact. So the question is, for the 14-year-olds that have their motorcycle license, can they drive on the street?
Absolutely.
But if you're in a four-wheel vehicle, you can't.
Right, 16
at
is
least
the
16.
minimum age on that.
Okay.
You know, but no, we're not even talking permit. We're talking actual license.
Start thinking about these things, folks, because there's reasons that and these are just pointers to that make my point, or make our founders' point actually, that we have rights. Those rights cannot be prohibited and then licensed back to us.
Right.
And the reason is that we get into tyranny, because tyranny is absolutely being arbitrary on whatever comes. And now we're talking with Tulsa. They don't want anybody under 16 to be on the scooters. Now, here's the thing. If they're making a law for everybody, then you can't be on a scooter in general. That's one thing.
Yeah.
If they are making that for their scooters that the city owns, if they're city-owned scooters, then they can dictate who gets on the scooter.
Owned, but if the city has an interest in them, even as like getting a cut or something like that.
Right.
Well, no, then they might be able to dictate it as sort of as a private party.
But I'll give you an example though. I mean, I went to Mayfest. My oldest son was performing there at Guthrie Green, the main stage, and I was like, yeah, I want to get there. And they said, wow, we got shuttles coming from TCC on the south side of downtown. Get there, there's no shuttles. And I parked there, and I'm like, there is no parking up there. And I'd already dropped my wife off, couldn't get a parking spot. So I'm almost a mile away. And I go over to see these kids at TCC. I said, hey, man, tell me how these scooters work. Man, they got me set up, pulled the credit card up, downloaded the app, and got on it. And I'm booming up, Boston Avenue, get there. And it was great.
Yeah.
There are some valid reasons to have those scooters. The whole thing cost me $1.40.
Oh, my.
It's going to be horrible.
I didn't
if they
realize it
lo-
was that cheap.
Yes.
Oh,
If
wow.
they lower the price of the scooters, then they're going to create a black market with these youngsters selling intellectual knowledge to the old guys like you trying to ride a scooter.
You know,
Scary.
Okay, that's an interesting take on
okay, you
black
know,
market.
you're
And,
not-
and how do you have a
Kids
black
hanging out next to the scooters and
Tom?
stuff.
How do you have a black market in a free society?
You know, I don't ask.
You
them.
know, just
Oh, no.
On a bigger level,
So-
are any of us really free, David?
Oh, David. David.
lawfully speaking, we are. But so here's my question: is is the plan to prohibit everybody under 16 from being on there? Or they were also talking about you can't double up, so you can't tandem. And it's like, are they then going to also outlaw tandem bicycles? You know, to
Yeah,
kind of
no.
keep things synonymous.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Um,
And what constitutes a scooter as defined in this? My
it's
guess.
all stupid.
Can we
Here's
cut
what-
out some PDA
Okay.
too? Because
Yeah, there we go. My guess is they're going to say within the interdispersal loop of downtown, they're probably going to just do it
Right.
because kids in their neighborhood called us that. Come on, Tom.
But they already mandate that they wear,
I got the
wear
heat
helmets.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which we grew up
Oh,
that's a hat
without.
law.
Yeah, and actually, no, nobody's got helmets wearing these scooters. Actually, they tell you,
Yeah.
because their lawyers say, must wear a helmet when you're doing this, and nobody's wearing a helmet.
I think the scooter should be controlled by the mother who has like an Xbox controller. Gotcha.
Well, the
Oh,
thing
there you
is that if you have young kids, because I
I
think
do.
the idea is that they are supposed, if they're below a certain age, they're immature and less responsible. I think that what you have is you have to put that back on the parents. If you have
Yeah.
underage children,
Yeah.
then
The
then it's up to the parents to be responsible. You hold the parents responsible, and you know what? Then the kids are held responsible via the parents.
Yeah.
There are ways to do this that do not violate other people's law-abiding citizens' rights, law-abiding children's rights.
Yeah.
Okay, because of the immaturity and foolishness of others.
Yeah, I'm just
So-
glad to see people actually going to Mexico and finding sanctuary cities down there, you know? So,
I didn't think those scooters could go that far, but I guess.
but anyway, yeah, it's, you know, the scooters, if done right, they can really be a handy thing for getting around downtown. They really
I
can.
love the scooters.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and I've done it once, and like I said, they're actually pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing that we have in today's society that we didn't have before. Anything else before we close it out?
No, that's it. Dan Broso, get your butt back here next
Dan
week.
Broso raising a family.
Hope everything's going
well. Tom McKay here with 3D Politics, David Van, David Oldham, and we will see you next week at 7 p.m. for our next episode of 3D Politics. Thanks for tuning in.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.